All right, so recently I've discovered something very interesting after testing and building some of these voice AI agents. Could you? And it's made me question a little bit on how current AI people or people in the AI infrastructure build these agents basically. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, it's basically how you can run voice AI agents locally. So as you probably know, most people are running the voice AI agents using third parties. You have third parties such as Twilio, you have third parties such as Vapi, you have parties such as Retail, Synthflow, and the list probably goes on, including 11 Labs as well. So these third parties, in as much as they help the deployment process much more easier, they also do come with their own heavy, you can say, disadvantages or heavy downsides of using them a lot. And then you'll be able to find that there's a much more better way or cheaper way of actually hosting some of these voice AI agents and cutting down a huge number of those costs when you're doing it locally. So I'm going to be giving you a quick run through how you can actually do that. I'm also going to be explaining on the current voice AI agents, some of the advantages and disadvantages that you can have when you locally host it and when you're using a third party. So I'm going to jump into the current structure of how the voice AI agents basically looks. So currently you do have people that are building voice AI agents today in a structured sense that basically looks like this. You have basically the telephony provider, in which case sometimes is mostly Twilio or the platform itself. Some platforms do offer phone numbers as well. You have the text to speech provider, you have an LLM basically, you have the speech to text as well. So this is basically the normal stack and the normal flow of how when you build these voice AI agents, you kind of expect them to work and you kind of expect them to function basically. So basically, when someone calls your voice AI agents, that basically gets sent to a server and then it's later transcripted and then basically sent to an LLM, which basically it generates a response and then it sends it back, which is basically converted back to speech, which is then relayed back to the caller. So basically that's how the conversation flow goes. This basically is all right, it's an all right conversation. This is basically how it works, but it also can provide you with a few problems. So the problems here that I'm going to be covering are some of the few problems that you're going to have when you're deploying some of these agents. So the first problem basically is going to be the latency. So latency is basically every time the system has to send data to another server, you're adding milliseconds of delay. And in voice conversation, milliseconds basically do matter. If your AI takes too long to respond, even if it's not really that long, sometimes that basically feels a little bit unnatural on a call, and it basically makes callers or users of that voice AI agent basically a little bit suspicious as well. So you'll be able to tell in these conversations whenever the voice AI agent is having some sort of delay that basically isn't a natural person talking on the other end of the call. So the other thing that I'm going to be talking about is cost. So when you're running these voice AI agents on third parties, you basically do have to cover a huge cost. So the first cost that you're basically going to have to cover is the speech to text cost. You're going to have to consider the LLM cost. You're basically going to have to consider the text to speech costs. You're also going to have to consider the infrastructural cost. So if you're starting to scale your voice AI agents into thousands and thousands of cores, that also is going to increase the amount of money that you're going to spend on those platforms for you to be able to have the voice agents running. So basically, the larger the scale becomes, the huge the amount also becomes. And then you have the third problem, which is basically going to be the control. When you're using third party platforms, you don't really control the system. You're dependent on the infrastructure, their pricing, and their limitations as well. You cannot fully have control on the voice agents. You cannot fully conversate with them. You cannot fully use them to their full potential. So let's say if you're using platform on a certain tier, let's say you have a professional tier and then you have, let's say, the corporate tier of their platforms, the accessibility that they are going to have is going to be much more different from you, which I'm going to be assuming would be a normal person just trying to deploy these AI agents. You won't have enough control when it comes to things like that. So basically, that in itself limits you from how much you can do with a voice AI agent. So right now, I'm going to dive into the main infrastructure of what you get when you run your voice AI agents locally. So now this is where things can get a little bit more interesting. So instead of relying entirely on external services, you can actually run many parts of your voice AI agents locally. So you can run, for example, your local speech to text models, you can run your local LLMs, and then you can run your local text to speech models as well. So you can basically run all of these all on your machine or your laptop or whichever device that you're going to be using. You can be able to run all of these locally. So which basically means the entire conversation can happen without it ever leaving your system. So the fourth thing that I'm going to talk about is why this is basically powerful. So there are huge benefits when it comes to running voice AI agents locally. So the first one which I'm going to talk about is the same as before, which is latency. So since everything happens locally, you basically remove a lot of network delays when it comes to voice agents, and then you basically do have a much more quicker and faster responses when it comes to deploying these agents. And that basically helps in the sense that the conversation feels much more natural, which basically helps in helping your voice agents feel more realistic and natural. So basically that's the first one. The second one is basically also going to be the cost. So once your voice AI agents are deployed locally, you are no longer paying per request, so you are just going to be running compute. So basically you have your entire voice AI agents locally, which basically makes it much more cheaper at scale. You also do have the third thing, which I think is very important, which is the privacy. If you're working with businesses, healthcare, if you're working with maybe local infrastructure, some of these companies do value the amount of data that they have. They don't really want their voice data being sent to another third party service. They really would want their data being kept. So this is where it becomes a huge thing when you're deploying these voice AI agents locally. You can be able to keep all the data inside the locally, which basically gives you much more control of that as well. So you won't only be sending voice data or information or data to a third party. You have control of that information, which I think is one of the major reasons some of these corporations or businesses look for when it comes to building voice AI platforms such as voice agents as well. So, fifth thing I'm going to talk about is basically why voice AI agents aren't necessarily perfect. To be clear, running voice AI agents is basically not perfect. There are still challenges that you can come across when you're trying to run these voice AI agents. So the first challenge can basically be the hardware requirements that you need. The second one would be the model optimization. And then the third one would be the infrastructure setup. So those could be much more difficult when you're running your voice AI agents. So being able to have the hardware, being able to have the local infrastructure that you need to set it up, and you being able to have the model optimization. So this can be having a local LLM, for example. For that, you can use local LLMs such as Olama. You have those different LLMs that you have to kind of host on your own as well. So it becomes a little bit more complicated when it comes to building and setting up these voice AI agents. And basically, that's why you find that most people rely on already hosted voice AI agents or third parties, because they already remove that stress that you have to deal with when it comes to having the capacity to be able to host these AI agents, because they already give you that capacity. So that's why you find a lot of people still using third parties to run their voice AI agents. But basically, I believe the technology is improving, and very soon you'll be able to see voice AI agents being hosted locally much more easier in the future. So I'm very excited to have a lot of people being able to host these voice AI agents on their own computers. So I'm going to dive into the sixth section now, which is I'm also going to show you a quick demo on how I'm going to test this voice AI agent locally, and you can be able to see how these voice AI agents can respond locally when you host it on your own. Without further ado, I think I'm going to be jumping into that demo so that you can be able to see how you can run these voice AI agents on your local device. So, all right, so I'm going to be showing you how you can run your voice AI agents on your laptop. So the platform that I'm going to be using to run this voice agents is LiveKit. So LiveKit is one of the platforms that allows you to download and fully host your AI agents locally. So it's not only AI agents, you can have custom chat interactions. You can also build complex AI system around LiveKit. So for this purpose, I'm going to be using it to build voice AI agents. And in this process, I'm going to be explaining how you can run them after you completely set up that LiveKit process. So if you want to see me set it up again, so an entire detailed video on how you can download and then set it up on your laptop or your computer, please do let me know in the comment section so that I can create a separate video on that. So I'm not going to be covering that, so I'm just going to be showing you how it actually works. So on your Windows, you can go to PowerShell or you can use your CMD. on PowerShell, you're going to be able to run a command after you open. So you're supposed to make sure that it's in your desktop folder or wherever you saved it. Mine is on the desktop folder, so that's why it's currently on the desktop folder. So you'll be able to type in cd, and then you'll be able to paste in the file name or the location where you have this voice AI agent set up. And then once you enter, it's basically just going to show you that it's in that file now. So after this, you're basically going to run the second command, which is basically going to be lk room list. All right, so this is basically going to give you, as you can see, you have the configuration of it. It's going to create a room ID. You have the room ID, you have a name, you have participants, you've got the publisher as well. So this basically just says the voice AI agent is functional, and it basically shows it right here. So it's called voice persona, as you can see. So that's the name of the voice AI agent in the LiveKit cloud account. So once you have that set up, you can create a test room now for you to be able to test this AI agent. So for you to be able to create the test room, you're going to have to type in this command, which is basically lk room create test, and then room, then you enter. So this is basically now going to create the test room, which is going to allow you to be able to test this voice AI agents. Of course, when you're not creating or when you're trying to deploy it, you're not going to use a test room. You're going to create something a little bit more permanent. And then when you want to actually now have the voice AI agent call you, I'm going to have it call me right now. We are supposed to enter this command. I basically just have it copied so you can paste it here. Dollar sign meta here, you have the phone number here. Then it basically creates a new room, and the agent name is going to call upon the agent name and then be able to call you. So you have that here, you have that pasted, and all you have to do is enter. And I'm going to wait for a phone call on my phone. No phone call. I'm going to press enter, and then I'll wait. All right, so as you can see now, it's calling. So as you can see now, the voice AI agent is calling. I'm basically just going to pick it up so that you can be able to hear it for yourself as well. It seems like there's a small mix-up in your question. Do you need to ask about the weather in a specific location, or perhaps you want information about children or childhood? Just let me know, and I'll be happy to help. Could you give me all the details that you have about this AI? Artificial intelligence AI refers to the simulation of human intelligence in machines programmed to think and learn. Here are some key points. One, types of AI, narrow AI, specialized for specific tasks. Okay. Basically, that's how you run your voice AI agents locally. So you can do this, you can set it up as well on your laptop. So basically, the advantages of you having it locally set up is that you can also build a layer on top of it. So this can be, maybe let's say you want to build a SaaS, you want to build like a, so this already makes it much more easier for you to be able to create that and then be able to run that as well. So basically, those are some of the advantages that you have of creating and testing this voice AI agent. So without further ado, I appreciate you watching the video for this long. If you want me to create a separate video on how to set this up on your laptop, be sure to comment that and leave that in the comment section. I'll be able to check it out and then maybe create a separate video. So I wanted to cover this for now and basically test it out for so that you can see how this voice agents work. So thank you so much for watching all the way, and I'll see you guys in the next video.